Hi folks, Jeff Susich here. Today we're going to do a screen flow that's going to allow users to generate on-demand order reports on the order object. They're going to run a screen flow. They're going to pick some fields. We're going to pass those field selections into an existing report, generate real-time reports. So this will be a screen flow. We're going to also display the record types as a pick list. We're going to make the section collapsible. We're going to create an order report initially to use in this, and we'll use the flow to filter the report and display it. So we got a whole bunch of stuff going on here. So let's talk about this a little bit. Choosing record types in screen flows. It's not intuitive, not as simple as you would think. So we can use a record choice set, but we need to reference the S-object type field on the record type object to do this. Now, passing filter values into a report, they're passed into existing field filters on the report. You create the report, you put some filters on there. Then you pass it in a variable called FV, and it has numbers on it, like FV0, 1, 2, 3, and it has to be in order. FV0 has to be the first filter on the report. FV1 has to be the second one. The URL parameter can only set filters using the equals parameter in the report. So you have to basically put in there order status equals blank. It's got to be equals. It can't be greater than. It can't be less than. But we can still use relative date values such as this week. So if we're using a date field, I could put a date in there and then pass into it this week, this month. We will create a screen flow that will pass field filters into this order report. Now to do this, you have to create a URL like this. So basically you take the first part of the report, strip it off there. The first part needs quotation marks because it's literal text and it doesn't change. The second part of it is variables, and those can change. So this is kind of the parameters of what we're going to see in this. So let's have a look in the org now and see what this looks like. All right, so here's our order report on the order object. The filters in this are going to be status equals blank, order start date equals blank. And again, on the order start date, even though it's equals blank, we can pass in this week, this year from the screen flow. So let's have a look now at the screen flow and see what this looks like here. So we've initially got this screen. Here's our record type collection here. This is going to be a record choice set in here. That's what this will be. Here's our record choice set called record type choice. Let's look at that. Here's the record type choice. The field is S-object type equals order. We need to do that. Now, how are we going to make this thing collapsible? There's the rest of that. Choice label, name, choice value, ID, which means when they select that, we're going to save the ID of the record type. How are we going to make that collapsible? Well, let's look at this thing again and see what we're going to do here. What we did is we used a section for this. That's a section I buried this thing in. We left it at the full length, but that's the little trick we're going to do for this. I have an order status. This is the standard order status field on the order object. And I have an order start date on here that the users will pick a start date. All right, so over here, this is our report URL here, similar to what we looked at on that slide. First part of the report in quotation marks because it's a text literal, and then variables. FV0 equals order status, FV1 equals order start date. So we need the URL encodes in there because when you're passing in parameters into FV0 and FV1 like this, the order status, that has a space between it. That can break the URL. Similar to order start date. If that's passed into the filter with slashes on it, like month / day, that can also break it. The URL encode makes it safe for Salesforce. So that's what we've got there. The next thing we do is we do a get records. we go get that report that we created called Flow Orders Report. So we've got that saved in memory in the get records. What we do then is we assign that report to var report ID, basically a text variable. So we're holding the ID of the report in a variable called var report ID. Okay? And then at the end we display the link. It's that link that we saw that was in that variable var report URL here. They click on this, they go to the report, we pass in FV0, which is the order status, and we pass in FV1, which is the order start date. Let's see how this works. I'll go to debug and run it. Okay, first thing we see is there's our collapsible section there. Works great. Order record type, I'll pick large orders. I've got 2 record types in this org. Order status, I'll put draft. And the order start date on here, I'm going to put this week and select next. All right, let's go to the report link and see what we see here. And we should see one report record, and we do. There it is. This order start date's today, 9/22, so it captured it properly as this week. So when we look at the report, we'll notice the filters have taken in those values. Status equals draft, order start date equals this week in our report. So there we have it. There is how to use a ScreenFlow to pass filter parameters into a report. This is really useful. Think about this for users. They could create dynamic reports on the fly without having to even know how to use reports at all.